This is James Holder for IFL TV in association with Matt Mobile. With me, I've got the big man, David Price. The big un returns to Liverpool. May not the circumstances he absolutely wanted in his head, but he's back, no doubt. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, I'm good.
Cool.
Yeah, I made a little joke there before about a few years ago. Fighting at Anfield was a realistic possibility, the way things were going, but as it turns out, now I'm on 8 rounds at a Goodison Park, and it was a joke, but to be honest, you know, I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm really happy for Tony Bellew, happy to be a part of it. It's a massive night for the city.
I've got to say, I was really pleased to see that your defeat to Uncut has been given a no contest, as he has obviously failed a drug test. But I want to talk to you a little bit about two of the men that have beat you twice.
Yeah.
2 of them have been failed drug tests. So it must be hugely disappointing, the fact that for that to happen to you twice, and the loss. I can only think of the loss of earnings that must have come from that situation. How do you sort of deal with it, Dave?
It's frustrating, you know. The frustrating part about it is the Tony Thompson one was a masquerade agent, wasn't it? So I don't know what Tony Thompson may or may not have been on, but the fact is he was on a banned substance, and if you look at that fight, he was on the floor for nearly 12 seconds as well. Listen, I'm not going to cry about me luck, but I have had a little bit of bad luck. Tony Thompson got up off that punch and carries on, and what happens. Now, that didn't come out for 2 years. I knew nothing about that for 2 years. It was kind of hidden away from me while he was appealing, and I've read the report on it all, and a lot of things don't add up, but you know, that's done. Then the Tepper one, you know, got knocked out in 2 rounds, and then for months after it, you think you've lost fair and square, and you're contemplating what your next move's going to be, and then all of a sudden you find out through I think it was a Finnish fucking press reporter or something told one of the Sauerland brothers, and that got kept quiet. So then I found that out, and me being the way I am, I'm my own worst critic. So initially I was like, it didn't make any difference to me, but as time's gone on, I've thought, hang on, am I a fucking gobshite? I'm sitting here and I've only been cheated out of 2, you know, 2 losses I've had out of the 3. I've been cheated. It's as simple as that, you know. And
the third loss is to the man who, in the second fight, cheated. So
yeah, exactly. So I've lost to 2 men, and out of the 3 fights, both were on banned substances. Like I say, Tony Thompson was on a masking agent, so you can't really point a finger and say what he was on, if he was on something. But like I said, people can make their own minds up about that if they read the report. You know, he could deny it. It's be his word against anyone else's. But the Tepper one, he was under a alone. If you read up about that's a major anabolic steroid that gives you massive gains in strength.
Just keeps you coming.
Strength and power, and keeps you coming. Yeah. So it might have been better that night that what happened, because I could have hit him with the fucking the corner stool that night, and he probably would have kept coming, and I might have had long-term damage. And you know,
it's a very valid point. You've only got to look at what has happened recently to fighters in the ring, and injuries, etc.
Yeah, of course. You know what? I look at obviously Nick Blackwell was really lucky, and you know, thank God he came through it and he's okay. But there was a fighter from Russia called Abdul Salamov, and he fought Mike Perez, heavyweight. Went 10 rounds, take a shot, really great chin. I fought him in the amateurs, and I beat him in one of the Olympic qualifiers, and he's one of them. You could just hit him all night, but now he's having to get his nappies changed by his wife, and that's the reality of it. You know, because he went through an entire fight taking too many big shots, and you know, Mike Perez was a clean athlete. Imagine someone who was on drugs done that, there'd be uproar. But like I say, the way I'm looking at it now is that I need to be in a position where I was before I was cheated. Simple as that. Like, what's right is right.
Yeah.
I was told if Liverpool would have had 2 failed drug tests, you know, as well as Sacco failed a drug test for Liverpool. If another player would have failed a drug test, Liverpool would be out of the Europa League, and Dortmund would have got reinstated. Now, why should boxing be any different? You know, I'm getting called out now by domestic fighters who haven't even fought for an English title.
So you're talking like Dave Allen?
Yeah, you know, Dave Allen might turn out to be a good fighter, but why the fuck should I have to go back to that level after being cheated for fighting for the European title when I was number 5 in the IBF? It's not happening. It's not happening. I'm standing my ground. I'll have this fight at Goodison, and then we'll get an opponent who'll get me right up back in the IBF rankings, or any other ranking for that matter. Because, like I say, if I hadn't been cheated, where would it be now? I mean, the way things have turned out, Anthony Joshua's IBF champion of the world, thanks to Tyson Fury freeing up the belts, and then Joshua's took the opportunity with both hands. I would have been a perfect opponent for Anthony Joshua for his first defence, voluntary, because had this not happened last year, by the way, you know, my story, similar, Olympic medalist, only lost to people who've lost, you know, been on drugs, everything else, and I feel like it's a missed opportunity.
Do you feel as if those cheats have cost you millions of pounds in future earnings?
Potentially, yeah, potentially. I mean, who knows how good it turns out. I mean, I'm confident it wouldn't have happened had they not been on what they were on. I have to be careful because we've got to talk more about Uncut than Tony Thompson, because like I say, about masking agents, and he changed his high blood pressure medication. He was on one in the February fight, which wasn't a banned substance, and then all of a sudden 3 months later he was on a different one, and his doctor couldn't explain why, and that's why he got a 2-year ban or whatever it was. Yeah, I don't think it wouldn't have happened had he been clean.
Before those fights, everyone was talking about Tyson Fury versus yourself as potentially the biggest fight in the heavyweight division.
Yeah,
so
yeah, and
it must have been a real sort of kick up the nuts for yourself, not for the way it sort of played out.
Yeah, it has, and a lot of people would have been inclined to lose faith in the sport and walk away from it. But I haven't. You know, I still feel like I've got unfinished business. And one thing that does keep me going is that nothing is final. Things are changing all the time. And as long as I keep working hard and improving, I think I'm going to get me rewards. I will get me rewards at some point, you know. And people can think what they want. You know, people can say, I've had people saying, come on, we all know the real reason you got beat. Get a fuck. You know, what the real reason I got beat? What? Why? Because you've got no chin, this, that and the other. I'll argue that to the death. You're on drugs, everything changes. The only 2 people who've beaten me have been proven to be on drugs.
You're back now on the 29th of May on the undercard at Everton. I can't believe I'm actually saying this to David Price. You are fighting at Everton on Tony's undercard. I mean, it's a step in the right direction for yourself, and ultimately another sort of step getting to where you was. Effectively. It
is, yeah. Like I say, I'm privileged to be on it. I'm happy to be on it, and I'm hoping it's going to be a massive, historic night for Tony Bellew. Good friends of mine. All the other lads on the undercard, good lads as well. Great to be part of it. And it's just a step. Get back on the horse for me again. You know, I'm sick of using that phrase, but I feel like this is a real fresh start. New trainer, new setup, and I'm feeling good, you know. I'm feeling good in the gym. You know, we always say that before a fight anyway, as a fighter, and you know, it's about getting back under the lights and getting the buzz again of winning. You know, you forget that feeling when you haven't won a fight. I haven't won a fight for 18 months. The last fight or something in February last year. You lose that buzz of winning and getting your hands shook and a pat on the back and congratulations and everything else. And when the last fight that you've had was a bad loss, you forget why you love the sport, and that's what I want to remind myself of on the 29th.
Tony Bellew's been quite vocal, as if one strike, one time caught for drugs, you should be out of the sport for a lifetime. Having been on the bad end of people taking drugs and the rough end of this sport, what are your thoughts on that?
And why how people have got the bollocks to do it. For a start, because there's so much to lose. You know, imagine being told you can't fight for 2 years, so you can't earn money for 2 years. Now, the people who are willing to take these risks are either stupid or don't need to fight, and that's why they're taking the risks. They don't need to fight for the livelihood, so to speak. And I think he's right. At the end of the day, people's lives are at risk. People have been known to be killed in a boxing ring. Now, if you're getting given an unfair advantage in your training camp on fight night, you know, you should be held accountable.